This is the Barry Odom Coaches Show, brought to you by Parkway Tavern, the official home of the Rebels on the road, and the Barry Odom Coaches Show. Now, here are your hosts, Caleb Herring, Steve Cofield, and the voice of the Rebels, Russ Langer.
All right, Cofield in, Russ with the week off. Barry Odom is here, the debut of the Barry Odom radio show. Caleb Herring, of course, former star of the Rebels, last quarterback to take them to a bowl game, and Parkway Tavern is the setting. 2:15 and Flamingo. Tremendous crowd out here, so give yourselves a hand. We appreciate you guys coming out. We've got raffles going on, right? We've got $2 beer specials. What do we have cooking with the raffles before we bring in the coach?
So the raffles throughout the evening, throughout the coaches show, we'll be giving out to the live audience. We've got UNLV merchandise, an autographed football, maybe the grand prize at the end of the day, signed by yours truly, Coach Odom. Also, throughout the evening, one of the bigger prizes, tickets to the game. So if you want to come out, get some free tickets, there's plenty of time. There's plenty of show. We got a whole hour with the coach. Come on down into the raffle, and we'll auction off those prizes during the breaks.
1 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. I know you've been waiting for this for a while, and we talked to you on Monday, in the media session, and you said you started thinking about this back on December 6th, about that first game, and then everything that goes around, in-season coaching.
Yeah, what a great venue tonight. Thanks so much to Parkway Tavern and for all the folks that are here in person. I'm so grateful and thankful for that. You look at when you get the job, you automatically, number one, you want to get around your team, but then you look at the first opponent, and then you start marking back the days on what that looks like, from recruiting to the winter edge program, winter's edge program in January and February. Then you get into spring ball and all the different phases that go along with that. But you always keep that date in mind, and you see it. And now it's within hours of kicking the thing off. We're very, very excited.
You just mentioned a lot there. Just on the surface for the outside, the average fan listening to that, there's a lot that goes into not only head coaching from season to season, but also in your case, coming into a new program, trying to establish some things with the team while at the same time being future-oriented as well.
Yeah, you look at, number one, it's a relationship-driven business about your players. And number one, that's the most important thing, is to get around them. They have to, at some point, have trust and buy-in, and the only way you do that is be direct and be deliberate about it and pour into them. I'm so thankful for our student athletes on the work that they've done, the things that they've put into this program, and now you just want to do everything you can to make sure that they're in position to play their best.
I know as a former player, I still get it. Like now, I get the nervous excitement, kind of waiting for week one to finally kick off and show everybody what I can do. Have the fun part of football, right? That's what everybody sees. The games are the best part. What's the vibe like with the players now? You've seen them through the spring, through the winter conditioning, all the hard work and the grind of fall camp. What's the atmosphere like with the players in the locker room?
I think there's a level of excitement. There's a level of, obviously you get to this point, you're so ready to see an opponent other than yourself. The preparation habits have really kicked in, and I've challenged them in the last few days on making sure that we're doing absolutely everything that we can to be in position on 1 o'clock on Saturday, be ready to be our best. But I'm excited for them. I'm ready to see them in action. They poured a lot into it for an opportunity for game one, for those 3.5 hours. How good can we get?
Players are coming from all different sorts of backgrounds, and I don't mean where they're from. I mean their situation. So give me the vibe, first of all, from players who were here. They're holdovers, because I'm sure a lot of those guys, when you came in, they're like, wait, do I have a place in the program? And now we're on the eve of the season.
Right. I think you look at the dynamics of what makes a team, and we've got 107 guys on the roster, and the way that they blend together, whether they've been here 5 years or 6 months, the excitement level is the same. And I think there's from, some of the guys that are returning that have been here before, they have an understanding of being in the stadium, of feeling that, of what it's like, but they're excited about the new opportunity for themselves.
The new guys, they're going to see the stadium. I'm sure they've been over there, but they haven't been in there with thousands of people in there. How do you think they'll react, and also how they react to new opportunities here? Because a lot of them have fought really hard to blend in and also be in the ones and twos and get playing time.
Yeah, the thing that I've talked pretty deliberately about the last couple of days is you guys have done the work, you've prepared. Now, don't go do something that you're not. Just be who you are. Go play with extreme confidence, because you've prepared the way that will allow you to do that. But I know they're excited to get into the arena. They're excited to get into the stadium and around our fans. And honestly, Steve, we're we're excited to represent UNLV, and that's something that we understand from former players to alumni to current students to past students. We're sure excited about having the opportunity to represent that brand.
I tell you what, the alumni are excited. We got an email chain going on. Steve Stallworth heads that up. We're excited that everybody's fired up to get, just like you said, see what the representation is like for this year's football team. Speaking of the football team, the depth chart's out. Everybody's had an access to it, been able to look at what's been released. And one of the things that Steve and I noticed looking at it, we were out at practice, so much of the depth that has been created. And it's one of the things you've mentioned is that you're trying to create guys that are ready to go regardless of class, age. How do you think the depth has shaken up, especially on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, I think you're always, I hate putting out depth charts because I don't want somebody to think, well, because it's week one, I'm out of the mix because I'm not on the too deep. That's so far from the truth because it's going to take all of us. It's going to take every person on our roster is going to have a role in what they do. But then also, if they don't play game one, that doesn't mean that the active roster for game two is going to be the same. So there's a little bit of balance there, but it's also the guys that are ready this week to go help what we think play winning football. And the defensive line and the offensive line, I know you asked defensively, first that you always want to build it, or I do, from the front back. So you want to establish what your defensive line depth is, linebackers, and then on the back end, I think, number one of the pillars of what we're going to try to do is stop the run. Well, how do you do that? And it's run fits and it's playing together, but it starts up front. And we've got to get enough guys inside up front that we feel comfortable playing with. And I think we've got a core group of 5 guys in there right now that will rotate in on Saturday that have a chance to play really well.
So I'm going to try not to get too into football because I know there's game prep and stuff like that you want to keep to yourself, right? But I like talking football. But from this aspect for you as a coach, you're a defensive coach. I would say that would be a fair assessment. You started off, you have a background in defense. I've always been interested in how that impacts the head coaching aspect. I know it's a totally different ball game when you're going from a coordinator to a coach. What's been your experience in both roles, but how has that experience as a coordinator helped you now in your role as a head coach?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair assessment, labeled a defensive guy. That's where I've grown up. I also look at, the years that I was a head coach at University of Missouri, we were explosive on offense. And, I think there's a balance there. Number one, I want to play smart football together. I want to play complementary football. But I think you look at, where you can help the most in our program right now defensively. I think I've got an opportunity because we're running systematically some of the things that I've been used to over the years. So, would provide a little more help or assistance on that side. But, on the offensive side, I only draw up touchdown plays. So all the other stuff, I don't worry about.
Oh, that's so true. All right. So you're talking about your experiences and where you've been in the past, and we've got a little bit of a peek at that because we've seen some of your staff, the coaches that you're coaching with now as your peers, essentially, were former players. Is there like a sense of pride, like watching guys grow up under your tutelage, and then now they're in a position now to coach and echo some of the same messages you imparted to them?
No, I'm really, really fortunate and lucky. Everywhere we've been as a family, we've been around really good people and good staff, and I think this would be the same. And a couple of guys that I've had a chance to coach that are now coaches and watching them grow up. I mean, Mike Shearer I knew when he was in the 8th grade and started recruiting him, so I've known him for a long time. Akeem Davis was a great player for us when we were at Memphis. I worked with 2 guys together on the staff at Memphis, and there's a lot of direct connections. And the word trust is hard to earn and hard to get in today's world in a lot of ways, but I'm thankful for our staff, and I trust them, and I'm excited to go to work every single day with them.
We're just kicking off the Barry Odom radio show. It's brought to you by SNWA. For Rebel fans, you guys know Lake Mead is still at historic lows. They want you to change your watering clock to 3 assigned days per week now through October. It's the law. Find your mandatory fall watering days at snwa.com. Funny talking to Coach Akeem. What was the term he came up with?
I was going to say it. It's football daddy. Have you ever heard that one
Barry
before?
Odom is my football daddy.
I've been called lots of things. That would maybe be one of the better.
Pretty good.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Can you relate to that? I mean, I know I can. There's guys in my past as a player where I could say that guy was just like a dad to me growing up.
Well, I think it goes back to relationships, and if you do it right and you're deliberate and direct about that, then you're going to form as a coach and a student athlete players, you've got an opportunity to develop a relationship that lasts a lifetime. And I think, in the grand scheme of coaching and teaching, I think that's so important, the value of a relationship.
And we'll get into it a little bit more later on when we bring up Jaxen Turner, but the relationships that you built with those former players who are now coaches, I know it's early in your stint at UNLV, but that connection with the players, from what we've seen in practice, seems like it's already developing. The players seem like they're definitely bought into the message you're delivering. Is there anybody on the team that maybe stands out as somebody who has the potential to become what you're seeing from some of your former players in terms of becoming coaches and mentors themselves?
Yeah, I think there'd be a handful of guys if they wanted to dive down the avenue of getting into coaching. I think they could be tremendous educators. They could be great teachers, and also I think they could give back to make our society a better place. And that's, if you look at it on the grand scheme of things, hopefully that's our message every single day when they get out into the real world, that this program has helped them in a lot of different ways, not just the X's and O's part of it.
We're going to take a quick break here. We're going to build off a conversation that Caleb had with Jaxen Turner. We're all very excited to see Jaxen, a transfer in from Arizona. So we'll build off that on the way back as you're listening to the Barry Odom Radio Show on the UNLV Sports Network from Learfield. Odom Radio Show is rolling on here at Parkway Tavern. Remember, game day specials include $5 on the Miller Lite and Coors Light drafts. Just $2 tonight during the coaches show, and then they've got a great football food pack, 2 pizzas, 20 wings, and a pitcher of beer for one low price. Today's show is brought to you by Pueblo Medical Imaging. The friendly staff at Pueblo Medical Imaging is eager to take care of all of your radiology needs and offers same-day, next-day availability with top-of-the-line, state-of-the-art equipment. Open 7 days a week with early morning and evening appointments to accommodate all patient schedules. The coach is here. We're going to feature some conversations with the players. Caleb Herring is here as well. Caleb is introing a new feature on the pregame show, which we've expanded on Learfield to an hour, and it's Get to Know a Rebel. While I kind of do more of a media-type interview, I think they're good, but Caleb gets behind the scenes. And, I listened to this. You did 15 minutes with him. We pulled a minute. This is a really good interview with Jaxen Turner, who I didn't realize that he's actually an area guy for you, Caleb. But
absolutely.
We started off this short portion of the conversation asking one of the new safeties on this Rebel team how he's adjusting to Vegas.
It's Vegas. It's arguably one of the best tourist cities there is. Just transitioning from Arizona to Vegas, it's not much of a it's kind of similar. They're both the desert. They're both hot. Just Arizona, it got monsoons and whatnot, so that's the only thing, and it get real humid. But other than that, I've been to Vegas multiple times growing up, just younger side, travel ball side aspect of it. I ain't really get to explore too much of Vegas. I love it. I love the environment. I love the fact that I'm closer to home. I love the fact that I'm in Vegas playing football. It's funny to say that too, though, because I am also a Raiders fan. I get that from my dad, so it's actually cool. I feel like I'm in the right spot.
So, I already got it pictured in my head. Your dad's probably got some trips planned where he's coming to the game on Saturday, staying over, and going to the Raiders game that next day, right?
Nah, we for sure. Me and him both. I got to catch a game too. I ain't been to a Raider game since, I don't know, diapers maybe.
We got to get somebody at Allegiant to hear this, man, and get you to a game. You and your pops. That'll be a good story to follow, man. So,
obviously, as a former player, the player narratives interest me. Jaxen Turner's a story that I knew right off the back. He's from Moreno Valley. I'm from Moreno Valley. I was instant connection there. We had a good time in that conversation. But obviously, there's an element of connection with you and the players. And pardon me while I set this up here a little bit. There's a moment in practice as we're out at fall practice where you as the head coach are kind of, playing your role, watching everything develop from the teams and not really getting involved. You're not a position coach, but there's a moment where you and Jaxen Turner are kind of isolated and you're schooling them through something, defensive back techniques. And if I might be wrong in this, correct me here, Coach. Coach me up. It looked like you were kind of teaching them the transition on which hand to jam with and how to keep your hips open to the receiver and not close yourself off and get out of position. That's just my guess of what I saw. But that moment was so intimate, and he was so focused and locked in on you. How, as a head coach, can you build that communication, that relationship that quickly with a guy where he's that locked in on the field with you?
Well, I think Jaxen, number one, has he's been here as a grad transfer since January, and he's really 100% committed to having a tremendous season for our program. And I coached the defensive backs for a number of years, and you want to make sure if you see something that maybe you can help them, I want to make sure that I give them the point. And I don't want to look back at the end of the day and say, man, I wish I would have done this. I don't want to sit at any point and live in a regret. So, that was one thing that Jackson had, we were working in some man-to-man techniques and some things that I just saw that really I think he's a skilled athlete. I think he's got a chance to be a special player. And I also looked at it as something that I think just very, very small fundamentally that will help him continue to take the next step. So, I think the rest of the day he worked on trying to apply it. So that's even better. When you see something, you can maybe make a coaching point and it sticks with them on how you're able to communicate that, and then they go and have success with it. Then you know that you've reached them, and hopefully you've improved their game, which in turn will make our team better.
So he talked a little bit about, with me in that conversation about adjusting to Las Vegas. I heard a snippet there. He almost feels like it fits hand in glove, him being a Raiders fan, things like that, off the field that contribute. But there's a side that you have to, as well, as a head coach, adjust to the new environment. You have a family, obviously things going on. How's the adjustment been for you adjusting to Las Vegas?
It's been great. You look at, change is always, there's some sense of difficulty to it, no matter where you end up going in life. It's different is, the unknown, maybe more than anything, is an adjustment phase. But the city has been tremendous to myself and to my family. I'm so thankful and grateful for that. I look at all the different opportunities here within Las Vegas, and that's one of the reasons we're here, is because the city is built on opportunity. I think the opportunity to build this football program, and our family is committed, and we're obviously committed to turning this thing around, and we feel like there's a great place for college football in the city of Las Vegas.
I want to remind everyone, in addition to this program where we're giving you a preview of the football season for UNLV football, Fox 5 has a really good football preview for UNLV Rebel football preview on the way. It's going to air 5 a.m. on Big Fox on Fox 5 on Saturday, noon on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. That's going to lead into the kickoff against Bryant. And if you miss it, it'll be replayed on that channel on the 5th, the 6th, and the 9th. So we're here at Parkway Tavern. We should probably answer this next question. Hey, the food here is the best in town. It's very good. It is very good. But this is a great food town. And I know you've tweeted out about food a little bit, and I think we had a couple of comments on barbecue, and we were trading some ideas on restaurants in Kansas City. All right, so what have you lined up here in town that you really love?
Well, obviously it starts with Parkway Tavern, and then everything branches off from there. So it's the middle of the wheel, and then everything else spokes out. So we have there's so many different varieties of food, obviously, and it's an amazing city because anything that you want in a variety of food, it's here. Whether in any part of the city. The seafood is usually flown in the day before. The steaks are great. The Italian food is off the charts. And, there's not anything. You keep having a restaurant and you think, man, that might be the best meal we've had since we've been here. And then you go a couple of weeks later and somewhere else and I don't know, that might have been the best one. So, obviously I need to stay away from most of the restaurants at this point, but excited about the opportunities when the off season rolls around.
I know for me, I'm not a guy that was born and raised in Las Vegas. I'm from California, and I made this place my home. That kind of speaks volumes of what I think about Las Vegas, right? Yeah. So for you, and I know I had to answer this question a lot when people would say, why'd you just stay? Why'd you come back to California? Why'd you leave it? And I'm like, well, there's some preconceived notions, I guess, about Las Vegas that I had to continually rebut. Like, Vegas is a great place. I'm trying to convince you, just come and see. Is there anything maybe from the outside looking in that you had to kind of say, no, it's not that. It is this?
Well, it was a little bit even for myself. I'd been to Vegas 3 or 4 times in my life before I got the job, and I knew that there was the Strip. I didn't know there was anything else outside of that. So it's a wonderful community, and 2.5 million people has seemed like it gets smaller and smaller and smaller each month. But I think the opportunity when you get prospective student athletes and their families on campus to show them really the heart and soul of Vegas, what it is, and not only the Strip and that district, but all the different things that pour in to make Vegas one of the most unique cities in the world, has been fun to recruit to.
You mentioned the 3 or 4 times you've been to Vegas prior to taking the job, and you told the story. I don't know if you're willing to tell it again, because the audience maybe listening now may not have heard it, but you were introduced to the Fertitta Football Complex in sort of a unique way.
You get a chance to go on the road recruiting wherever I've been, whether it's Memphis, Arkansas, University of Missouri. We always recruited the city of Vegas. So I was here recruiting a defensive back at a local high school. I had plenty of time from the time the visit was over and my flight took off, and I knew that UNLV had the Fertitta Complex. I'd seen it online, I'd seen it, and I wanted to see it in person. Looked it up real quick. It was so close to the airport, I thought I could swing by and check this out. So I did, pulled up to the parking lot. I liked what I saw from the outside, and I thought, I want to get a little closer view. So I went, and for some reason the door was open, unlocked. I pulled it. The next one was open. I just gave myself a small tour, and what I saw in person was better than what I'd seen online. And I called my wife, when I went to the airport and waited, and I said, man, if that job ever comes open, this place can be special. And, it's strange how things work.
It is a fortress now. You cannot get in. All security issues have been fixed.
I've tried to change a few things. That's one of them.
Yes, no doubt. All right, on the way back, we're going to introduce you to one of the newest players, one of the newest leaders for this Rebel football team in from Arkansas, where Coach Odom was coaching the defense. Jackson Woodard will have a conversation with him, and that we'll play off of. You are listening to the Barry Odom Radio Show on the UNLV Sports Network from Learfield, live here at Parkway Tavern, 215 and Flamingo. Barry Odom Radio Show rolling on Parkway Tavern, 215 and Flamingo. This part of the show is brought to you by EOS. Up your gym game at EOS Fitness, a proud partner of UNLV. Join today for as low as $9.99 per month. Go visit online or join at joineos.com. It's EOS Fitness, better gym, better price. Caleb, I got to say, towards the middle of the show here, this is one of the biggest crowds we've ever had for a coaches show. So you have rallied the troops. You have people really fired up about the season, and it's awesome to see a big turnout. What's
so great is that the welcome has been so awesome to us and our coaching staff, and this is just maybe one small example of it. I'm so thankful. And, I said earlier in the week, Steve, these jobs are really hard to get. It's hard to get a head coaching job, and it's even more difficult to get one when you got the right fit and alignment. And with Eric Harper, that's the reason I'm here. And I'm excited about his direction, obviously his leadership, and we can do and will do special things here at UNLV. And this is such a great example of just starting to scratch the surface with what our program is going to be able to do.
That's Coach Barry Odom across the way. Caleb Herring, former quarterback for the Rebels, one of the voices of the Rebels on the radio broadcast. I'm Steve Cofield. So we're excited about the players that were here, have matured. Also excited about some of the guys who have been brought in. And Caleb will address this, just the look of a guy like Jackson Woodard, who was right there in the mix at Arkansas for playing time. And you just mentioned, hey, getting these jobs is hard. Getting playing time in Division I is hard. I sat down with Jackson for a few minutes, and I wanted to pick his brain on how the defense is looking, and also the fact that you guys brought in a lot of new guys, and they have blended in, and a lot of them have won playing time. And I asked him, hey, what does that mean that so many new Rebels are going to be a big part of the defense?
I mean, that means that they came in and worked, and also they're talented guys. They're good football players. Thomas Anderson, like you mentioned, is an incredible football player, and he works hard, and, he does his job. Blessing, same thing, came in, went to work, bought in, learned, and earned a spot. And there's a lot more. Even on the offensive side, Jet Thomas, running back, came in, first scrimmage, just showed out, balled out. And so it opens eyes, and, they earn their spot.
Okay, on the flip side, what do you tell guys who have maybe played a lot in the past or are coming back from injury in terms of fighting? You're a captain, so you're a leader, so I'm sure you are in a role where, hey, you got to pump guys up if maybe they didn't accomplish what they wanted on paper.
The biggest thing I tell them is go to work. Complaining or, not being satisfied and thinking you earned or, deserve something is not going to do anything. But if you go to work and do everything and earn it, and make the coaches put you in the game, they have no choice but to put you in the game because of how you're working and what you're doing on the field, then you're going to play. And that's what I tell them. And it's tough, guys with injuries or, people have played a lot. Some people are switched around positions, which is tough, but getting that playbook and get on the in the film room and learn, and then when you're on the field, go to work and be the best you can be.
Can you get a feel as a defensive player for the kind of depth you guys have? I'll just mention a couple of spots. Like at linebacker, it looks like it's a deeper group than it's ever been. I mean, the safeties and cornerbacks, I've never seen this much size at cornerback at UNLV in the last 5 or 6 years. Can you tell as a player, like, the depth?
For sure. We're out at practice. You can feel the depth. Darius goes out and Naki comes in and there's not a fall off, or I go out and Blessing comes in, there's not a fall off, or Thomas Anderson goes out, BJ Harris comes in, there's not a fall off, and that's huge. To win a game, there's going to be times where I'm tired and I'm going to need someone to come in and get me and step up to the plate, and it could be a third down stop and they need to get a stop, or someone gets injured. Hopefully not, but injuries happen and we're going to need someone to step up, next man up. And so it's huge to have that depth, and just that it's a lot of confidence. You have a lot of confidence in the guys behind you. So, yeah, it's awesome. One
of the leaders of the Rebel defense, Jackson Woodard, transferring from Arkansas, is here. I thought a really interesting comment during the preseason was Marcus Miller, who came in. And Marcus really was nowhere to be found on the depth chart last year. I saw him around, but yeah. And he said, you know what? Most of it was me. Like, I just wasn't doing what I needed to do. When you look back on the transition from Arkansas to UNLV, was it a physical thing? Was it a mental thing? I know you're a lot lighter now than you were at times there. Yeah. So what was it?
I don't think a lot has changed. I think in my time there, I was, blessed to be behind some really good athletes. My freshman year, Grant Morgan, Hayden Henry, Bumper Pool, those are just some guys you mentioned, Drew Sanders. And so I was behind them, and I, worked. And I just didn't get the opportunity that I wanted, and so that's why I ended up transferring. But I think if I would have stayed, I hope, or would have thought it would be the same position that I'm in now. So yeah.
Jackson Woodard's with us. Let's close out on this. What's the plan for the family during the season? Can they travel? Will they be out here for game number 1, or they have to just go to whatever's close regionally?
They'll be out for game number 1, and then from there, I don't know exactly which games they'll be at. My sister's going to be a senior in high school, and she's playing soccer. She's a stud soccer player. Got offers everywhere, and so they'll be with her, and so I don't know, but I know they're going to make it out to the first game, and then we'll see from there. I'm excited for them to be able to come out here.
Jackson Woodard is one of those guys, when you look at him, from my vantage point as a quarterback, I'm almost like instantly thinking, don't blitz. He's a guy that looks like a football player, right? Like just his build, his stature. He has a nose for the football, nose for the game. This is just things that we've observed in the brief time we've had with him in practice. And even speaking to him, the maturity in his speak, the way he talks, the fact that guys have voted him a team captain, those things just add to the pot of who he is. And then, we talked about during the offseason the story of him being a walk-on. And there's a whole narrative about walk-on football players. And there's plenty of stories that I'm sure you can share with the folks about guys that are walk-ons, and it doesn't matter. If you can play football, you can play football. And I think Jackson's one of those cases.
Absolutely. The things that he does, the mentality, the attitude, the no excuses, the things he brings to the table, and then his football IQ all combined together sets him apart. He's going to he'll have a great year because of the work that he puts in continually every single day. That doesn't guarantee success, but it puts you in a position to be successful. And I think he's got a lot to give to this program and to this university. And he's another guy that you look at that's honored and thankful to be here, but also we're counting on him to play at a very, very high level.
You played linebacker, correct? Mm-hmm. And you coach linebackers. You have a defensive coordinator that also played linebacker under you. And the kind of sense before, and this is kind of fan speculation, is that this would almost become linebacker university. And Jackson Woodard is one of the linebackers. Is there like a sense of focus on that particular group because of your experience, or do you kind of put that to the side and coach the whole team? No, the hardest job in the building is the defensive coordinator, linebackers coach, and then past that, it's probably the linebackers, and because we put a lot on them, and in the structure of our defense, they need to be really productive. You look at the past history, whether it's Drew Sanders that this got drafted, Grant Morgan, Bumper Pool, Hayden Henry, then you go to Nick Bolton, you go to Cale Garrett, you go to Mike Sheard, you go to Kentrell Brothers.
Most all of those guys were in the top 5 in the country in tackles, and a number of them were drafted, played in the NFL. So there's a premium of how we play that position, what it's supposed to look like, and the leadership qualities that we need out of that spot.
So Woodard leading the linebackers. Do you feel like you have an elite leader, someone you really trust at each level now on defense?
I really do, and it's been earned by their performance on the field, but also the work that they've put into off-season conditioning, even back to the winter conditioning program. I mean, the thing started there, and we talk about the phases of what it looks like. You know, the leadership has grown within our team. We've got captains, we've got a leadership council, but it takes all of us. And there's some guys that, everybody leads differently. And some guys are really vocal, some guys are just by example, and then some guys combination of both. But we've got a high set standard of what it's supposed to look like, and we've got guys at every area that are trying to do it every day.
Well, you've got a leader on offense, and we'll get into this conversation with a former quarterback. The quarterback does have to be vocal, and Brendan Marion, the OC, said it the other day. He's like, if the quarterback's not talking, it's like a coach getting in front of the room and just standing there staring at everybody. He's got to be vocal, and I'll tell you, when I talk to him, he's a totally different guy. And I'll tell you more about that in this interview coming up after the break. This is the Barry Odom Radio Show on the UNLV Sports Network from Learfield, live from Parkway Tavern every week, 2:15 and Flamingo. Get out here at 6 o'clock. Show rolls on. Last 20 minutes of the show. Plenty to get to. We'll look ahead to the opponent this weekend, season opener, Bryant, 1 o'clock kickoff. Get your tickets at UNLVtickets.com. If you get a chance to get here in the next 25 minutes, we do have giveaway tickets at Parkway Tavern. Again, Flamingo and 2:15. The coaches here, we're focusing a lot on the players and the leaders of this team. Caleb Herring, Steve Cofield, hosting this shindig. So I had a chance to sit down with Doug Brumfield, and he really has changed. And that's important, to be a vocal guy. And I talked to him at the start of the conversation. What's changed from high school as a quarterback to college in terms of you being more vocal?
At my high school, I really didn't have to be vocal, and it worked. Guys would just rally around. They kind of they knew how to follow me without me saying too much. And that can just be a geographic thing, everyone being from the same area and just being the same way almost. But in college, you got 100 guys that are from all over around the world, all different coaches. You have to be able to communicate universally. And sometimes people can't read body language. So you have to say what you want exactly. And you got to be able to get that across to 100 guys. So that's really been my focus since I came to college, is just being able to be vocal and not being afraid to say what you want done, and not being afraid to be disliked, Michael Jordan, one of the greatest of all time, and some people say he was a jerk. They say he was a jerk to play with, but he got them rings. At the end of the day, their goal was to win, and he got it done, If I got to be a jerk to get it done, then so be it.
Can you cover all on the offense, or does each unit need to have an outspoken person? Does a wide receiver group have to have a spoken leader, O-line or running backs?
I definitely can cover the whole offense myself, but it does help when you have a leader in the receiver room and a leader in the line room or a leader in the running back room, where you can go and like, hey, get your guys together, or hey, Ricky, get the receivers together. They're dropping a lot of balls, Being able to do that is just, it makes it easier, but I am able to go and pull the whole group together and talk to everybody like, hey, we're not doing enough right now. We need to pick this up as a whole, or bring up the group and only address the O-line just to put them on the spot. I feel like putting guys on the spot and putting that pressure on them makes them work harder, especially when it's from their peers. So I can bring up the whole group and like, O-line, we're not doing enough. Receivers, we're not doing enough. Quarterbacks, we're not doing enough. We need to pick it up, Just being able to do that is just it's a blessing this year.
Your dad was one of your coaches, right? So what does he talk to you about now?
Playing my game. My dad believes that, just don't let nobody get you outside of yourself. Always play your game. He was my little league defensive coach. So whenever I would mess up on offense, he'd just tell me, get it right back. That play's over with, get it right back. And I try to have that mentality on the field now. That play's over with. What's next? What do we need to do next? What do I need to do for the offense or the team next to put us in the best position to win this game?
Did you play on his defense?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you play?
DN.
Really?
Yeah, I played DN.
Okay.
Yeah. Do
you still have sort of that mentality at quarterback, or do you have to actually extinguish that a little bit by not putting yourself in jeopardy by having a defensive mindset?
I feel like earlier on in my career, I definitely had a lot of defensive mindsets. Sliding and all that stuff just wasn't in my repertoire of things to do. I just really wanted to be aggressive all the time. I felt like I needed to overpower everyone and just move people out my way. And as you get older, you realize you're not the biggest guy on the field anymore. You know, there's guys out there 6'6", 280, and you're not moving them out the way, you know. So you just got to be able to finesse and protect yourself. And that's one thing I really focus on this year is just being able to have longevity and playing every game that my team needs me to play in.
It's been amazing to watch Doug over these past few years. We've got to see him and watch his maturation and growth. And he kind of came to the program with some high expectations based on where he was recruited and the things he had the opportunity to do. And I say it's a rarity because things like the transfer portal, you don't really see guys stick with a program, especially for the length of time that Doug has. And I know COVID probably had a lot to do with that, the extended eligibility and things like that for players all across the country. But we've watched Doug develop and grow into some of these characteristics, from the quiet guy in high school to now being one of the vocal leaders, voted captain. And it seems like a lot of that came from some confidence. And I could be wrong here, I'm just taking a shot in the dark, but it seems like you knew that his confidence as the quarterback, as QB1, was important because you touched down and immediately pushed confidence his way.
I think that position is the most important in all of sport. And they've got the ability to lead. They touch the ball every snap. And they have to prepare the right way to gain real confidence. Doug has done that. I've been so proud of him because even since January, I've seen him grow every single month into what he is today. And my guess and expectation will be he'll be a lot better mid-season than he is right now in understanding and leading because he's gotten better every single week. And I'm so proud of him. He's got a tremendous future. I think he can be an elite quarterback in the landscape of college football. And he's continuing to pour into it every single day, and we're sure excited about watching him play.
I'll ask both of you guys, the former quarterback and Coach Odom. I saw you chuckle a little bit when Doug was like, I can cover the whole unit when it comes to communication. Why'd you chuckle?
Well, I look at, and I'm so glad that he thinks that, and I want him to, but also we need more. You know, I want Doug to play exceptional. Well, the easiest way for a quarterback to do that is, yes, you play really well, but everybody around you do their job and play well along with that. And then you take it from a good offensive group to a great one, and that's our standard on where we're trying to get.
And I agree with that. I think you have to, in some ways, be able to cover the whole group. I think that's a part of your role as the quarterback is you have to be the coach for every group. You have to know everybody's assignment and their job and their role to be able to teach it right, to be able to expect it from them. And I always looked at quarterback as the facilitator. You know, the media and the press and all the attention, you would have people think that the quarterback is supposed to be the star. And I think once you understand the position, and as Coach said, the people around you are what make the business easy for you. All right, the greatest point guards in basketball aren't the guys that score all the points. They're the ones that distribute and make the team better. And that's what the role of the quarterback is. And you have to be a leader of all the groups, of all the positions, and know what they're supposed to do so that you can get them the ball in the best spot for them. So I think he's embraced it, and that's a good sign. Like Coach said, that he's embraced it. And as a former quarterback, I love hearing that kind of talk from the quarterback room. You have to learn it. It's an intangible that the position requires, and Doug's stepping into the role, I think, in a good way.
Let's start looking at Bryant a little bit. This part of the show is brought to you by Pueblo Medical Imaging. It's time for the Coach's Look Ahead. So first, before we do that, let's look ahead at the season. Caleb, I know you wanted to ask about some of the changes with the rules.
Yeah, the rule changes, watching that first week 0 for me, I immediately noticed the game sped up. And this is from an offensive standpoint. There's things that you do to manipulate the game as a quarterback. I move the chains, the clock stops. Obviously, that's the biggest one that stood out to me. What aspect of the game do you think that changes the most? And you joked about it in the presser that there's some rules that maybe favor the offense or favor the defense. Would you think that this one maybe favors the defense in some ways?
I think eventually, and it may take multiple games, maybe even seasons, but the offenses are going to find ways to get their snaps. We look at week 0, there was a difference in all game last year, 12 games. We were short about 7 to 8 snaps in week 0 compared to last year. But the length of game was only 3 minutes shorter. So there's going to be the continued breaks in the game, but the action with the moving clock, how are you going to navigate through that in calling the plays and understanding? I think the offenses are maybe going to start going even faster.
It is the debut of the Barry Odom Radio Show. Much to get to in the final 10 minutes. We do have to look at Bryant, find out what the coach has seen with Bryant football as they're in town for the season opener, 1 o'clock on Saturday at Allegiant. UNLVtickets.com is where you can grab the tickets. You are listening to the Barry Odom Radio Show on the UNLV Sports Network from Learfield, live from Parkway Tavern. Barry Odom Radio Show. It's time to talk about the opponent as we close out here in the last 10 minutes. Caleb Herring talking about being a quarterback and a leader, and man, that was crazy break. You're giving away prizes. I'm like, there's 30 seconds left. Let's go, let's go.
It was like a 2-minute drill all over again, man. Trying to win the game here. Let's do it.
This is a unique spot, as so many games at the beginning of the season are against Bryant. Caleb, I know you wanted to ask about just kind of focusing on nameless, faceless opponent.
Yeah, there's been many different ways I think the message has been distributed, and I think one of the more famous ones is an appropriate fear for your opponent, and that's I think the way I heard it. And nameless, faceless opponent is something that you've introduced to me. I'm going to give you credit for it. Maybe you did come up with it. Maybe it's yours. But is there a story to that? Is there something more to that statement that you maybe are bringing to the table?
That I worked for a guy named Gary Pinkel for a number of years at the University of Missouri. He's in the College Football Hall of Fame, and that was his thing. He told us all the time as a staff putting it together, if we will prepare the right way and look at it, it doesn't matter, the opponent is us. And then how well can we prepare throughout the week? It's a nameless, faceless opponent. Then you've got an opportunity to prepare the right way and then go cut loose and play.
You don't want them to be too nameless in the sense that, there's preparation to be done.
No question.
And on your end and the coaching staff and getting film on these guys. Bryant University, probably a lot of fans on this side of the globe probably don't really know much about them. Has it been tough for you and your staff to get a winning edge on these guys at the film room?
I don't think so. I know so, not for a team, because you put on their film and there's an instant respect factor. They've got a tremendous quarterback. They averaged over 30 points a game last year. They had 5 games that went down less than one score decided upon. They took Florida International to overtime last year, game 1. 38-37. They've got every starter back on the offensive line, all their skill guys. They've got an All-American returner, and then on defense, they've got a defensive end that I think is will create havoc the entire season. He's a really good player. So we understand we need to play really well. We got to protect the football. We can't give up explosive plays. We got to be great on special teams. And if we do those things and we can run the ball, control the clock on some of those things, we'll give ourselves a chance to play well.
There's the nameless, faceless opponent element, and I think that transitions throughout the season. Every game, you can send that same message. But for week 1, not just because of the opponent, but because of the nature of week 1 and with the turnover of rosters and how things change so rapidly in college football, being a new season, does that present a different challenge? Is there different messaging for the team in a week 1 game?
Yeah, there's so many unknowns about us, right? And obviously about our opponent. But, we've got to be on point as a staff to make in-game adjustments. You've got to be able to see there's going to be some things that they do differently that maybe they didn't do last year. How do we need to change the play call? What are we looking at on that? And then for us, getting into the flow of what we really can do. And I know we've got a core group of things that we feel really strongly about on offense and defense and kicking, but there's also some different ways to attack that we've got to be ready and make sure that we've repped enough getting to that moment that we feel like they're game ready.
In shows in the future, I think we're going to get some of the coaches on, some of the assistant coaches. We're going to get some of the players out here. And I wanted to ask you about your choice at OC and DC. These are relatively young guys. It takes a lot of trust. So kind of what went into the mindset to go, you know what, we're going to have one of the youngest sets of coordinators in all of college football, and I believe in it.
Well, I look at I'll start on defense with Coach Shear, what he's been able to do, and I've been around him a long time, his understanding of the game. I've got a really strong comfort level on that. He's able to reach the players. He's ahead of the curve on, thinking about what's the next step, how do we piece it together, run fits, pass defense, all the things that work together. And I think he's good in front of the group. I think he leads the team and gives them the mission and how we're going to go get things accomplished, and is able to tie it all together. Coach Marion on the other side, I've known for a number of years, not as long as Coach Shear, but a guy that every stop that he's been, they've been explosive on offense. I've listened to him speak over the years at clinics and conventions and was impressed with his idea of how to play offensive football. And then we've connected over the years at a number of times about maybe matching up sometime together on a staff if it ever fit. And the stars aligned for us to get together. And I've been impressed with the way he's taken the skill set of our players and built the offense around them.
We got like 30 seconds for this one, and then we'll close out with one more pop about the game. You're an offensive guy, Caleb, and I know you kind of judge presence. I think there's a presence, even though Brendan Marin's a younger guy, there's a presence about him where you're like, wow, okay.
There's a charisma, I think, and a relatability from a player standpoint. This is how I look at it, where I'm like, I want to hear what he's saying. And I've been out at practice, and I've seen him talking to guys, and I'm like, what's he saying? Can I get in on that conversation? Because it just looks like he knows how to have that relationship. And I think, from the defensive side, I'll pick your brain all season. I'm excited about that because I'm an offensive guy kind of playing chess with defense from that perspective. So, good coaching, I think. It doesn't matter what side of the ball you're playing from. You can recognize it. And I think the staff at UNLV right now is full of good coaching.
Last 45 seconds. Let's talk about the football you expect to deliver, and then what you want from the crowd in Vegas to come out and support you guys.
Well, it's so important. I want everybody that is listening and has an opportunity to support our student athletes. We need people in the stands. Season tickets are the best deal in town. I know that the responsibility comes with that for us to play really well. I want a team to go out and play extremely hard, play together, be disciplined, and on all three phases of the game to represent our program and the brand of UNLV the right way.
Tickets at UNLVtickets.com. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff. You've been listening to the Barry Odom Radio Show right here on the UNLV Sports Network from Learfield.
You've been listening to the Barry Odom Coaches Show, brought to you by Parkway Tavern, the official home of the Rebels on the road, and the Barry Odom Coaches Show. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation of the Rebels Sports Network.